Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Harvey. Let me tell you something real today. When you match his silence, you are no longer begging to be understood. You are allowing him to finally understand. See, silence isn't empty. Silence is loud. Silence speaks a language that words can't compete with. When you stop explaining yourself, stop chasing closure, stop trying to fix what you didn't break, something powerful happens. He starts hearing his own thoughts. And trust me, that's when it hits him. Silence creates reflection faster than words ever could. And that's something most people don't understand until they experience it. When you stop talking, explaining, defending, or trying to be understood, you remove the noise that keeps another person comfortable. Words give people something to react to. Silence gives them something to think about, and thinking is dangerous when someone has been avoiding accountability. The moment you go quiet, you stop feeding the situation with energy, and that's when the truth starts rising to the surface. See, when you were speaking, you were doing half the emotional work for him. Your messages, your questions, your attempts to clear the air were distractions from the real issue. As long as you kept talking, he never had to sit with his choices. Silence takes away that escape. Now there's nothing to respond to, nothing to argue with, nothing to twist. All that's left is his own mind replaying moments, conversations, and missed chances. Reflection doesn't need an invitation. Silence forces it. Silence also exposes intention. If someone truly cares, silence doesn't feel peaceful to them. It feels heavy. It makes them uneasy. It makes them wonder. But if someone only enjoyed the attention, your silence feels like inconvenience, not loss. And that awareness is powerful because it shows you exactly where you stand without a single word being exchanged. Silence reveals truth faster than long conversations ever will. When you stop explaining yourself, you also stop justifying behavior that hurt you. Silence becomes a boundary, not a punishment. It says, I no longer need to convince you of my value. That shift alone changes everything. Because the moment you stop over-communicating, you stop negotiating your worth. And when someone realizes you're no longer chasing clarity, they start chasing understanding on their own. Silence gives space for memory. People don't miss what's loud and constant. They miss what was steady and suddenly gone. In quiet moments, he remembers how you showed up, how you listened, how you cared without being asked. Those memories don't come rushing in when there's constant communication. They come in the quiet. Silence gives absence a voice, and absence speaks directly to the heart. There's strength in not reacting. Silence tells the world you are emotionally disciplined. You're not impulsive, not desperate, not controlled by the fear of losing someone. You trust that what's meant for you won't require you to abandon your peace. That level of self-control creates respect, even if it's never admitted out loud. And the truth is, silence doesn't mean you stopped feeling. It means you stopped bleeding in front of someone who wasn't careful with your emotions. Silence is you choosing dignity over drama. It's you allowing time to do what arguments never could. Because time plus silence equals clarity. Clarity always arrives faster when words step aside. When you match his silence, the power dynamic changes in a way that words never could. Power isn't about control, dominance, or manipulation. Real power is about emotional positioning. It's about who needs who more in the moment. When you were the one reaching out, explaining, checking in, trying to fix things, the balance was tilted. Not because you cared more, but because you showed it more. And in relationships, the person who appears to care less often holds the upper hand. Matching his silence doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop overgiving. It means you stop placing yourself in a weaker emotional position by always being the one to close the distance. When you pull back to the same level of energy he's giving, you remove the advantage he had without even realizing it. Suddenly, There's no one chasing, no one filling the gaps, no one making it easy to drift away without consequence. Here's what happens internally. He notices the change immediately, even if he pretends not to. The routine is broken, the predictability is gone, you are no longer accessible on demand. And when access disappears, value becomes clearer. People don't feel power when someone is always available. They feel comfort. And comfort, when misused, turns into complacency. Your silence disrupts that comfort. Matching silence also sends a clear message without confrontation. It says you are aware. It says you are paying attention. It says you refuse to chase someone who is choosing distance. That quiet confidence is unsettling because it can't be argued with. There's nothing to defend against. No emotional reaction to overpower. Silence removes his ability to control the narrative. When the power shifts, he is forced into a different role. Instead of being the one who withdraws, he becomes the one who wonders. Instead of deciding when to engage, he starts questioning whether he still has the same access. That uncertainty creates emotional imbalance, and imbalance leads to reflection. Reflection leads to realization. Matching silence also recenters you. You stop monitoring his behavior and start focusing on your own peace. That alone restores your internal power. You're no longer reacting, you're choosing. You're no longer waiting, you're living. And people feel that shift energetically. Confidence that doesn't announce itself is the most powerful kind. This isn't about playing games. It's about refusing to overextend yourself where effort isn't mutual. Matching silence is not manipulation, it's alignment. You are aligning your actions with reality instead of hope. And when someone realizes they no longer have emotional leverage over you, respect begins to form, sometimes too late. The hardest part for him isn't losing the conversation, it's losing control of the dynamic. Because once you stop chasing, persuading, or proving, you step into a position where you are no longer reacting to his choices. You are responding to your own worth. And that shift is impossible to ignore, even in silence. When you remove yourself, when you stop filling the space with effort, explanations, and emotional labor, something unavoidable happens. Emotional awareness begins. Distance has a way of stripping people of denial. As long as you were present, available, and consistent, it was easy for him to overlook what you brought into his life. Your presence softened the impact of his indifference. Patience made his inconsistency feel harmless, but absence changes the emotional environment completely. When you step back, there is no buffer anymore. There is no reassurance masking uncertainty. He starts noticing the silence in places where your energy used to exist. The good morning messages that grounded his day. The emotional safety of knowing someone cared without conditions. The quiet support he didn't acknowledge because it was always there. Now it's not. And that absence creates discomfort, not because he suddenly became emotional, but because something valuable is missing. Distance forces comparison. He begins measuring new interactions against what he lost. Conversations feel shallow. Attention feels temporary. Connections feel incomplete. That's when emotional awareness hits hardest, not in dramatic moments, but in subtle realizations. He starts recognizing that what he had wasn't common. And the weight of that realization settles slowly, deeply. Absence also removes distraction. When you're no longer present, there's no one absorbing his emotions, no one helping him process confusion, no one stabilizing his inner world. He has to sit with himself, and when someone sits with themselves long enough, truth rises. He remembers moments he didn't appreciate, times he could have shown up better, words he didn't say when they mattered. Silence gives those memories room to breathe. What makes this powerful is that you didn't demand accountability. You didn't force awareness. You didn't ask him to change. You simply stepped away, and that choice shifts responsibility entirely onto him. Emotional awareness becomes unavoidable when there's no one left to blame, no one left to lean on, no one left to absorb the consequences. Distance also reframes your value. When you're gone, your role becomes clearer. You weren't just someone who cared. You were stability, you were consistency, you were emotional grounding. And when that grounding disappears, imbalance is felt immediately. People often don't understand the value of emotional safety until they're emotionally exposed. And here's the truth most people don't say out loud. Emotional awareness often comes too late. It arrives when the opportunity to fix things has already passed. That's why regret forms quietly, because realization without access is painful. Understanding without connection is heavy, and that weight lingers longer than any argument ever could. You didn't create this awareness by speaking louder. You created it by stepping back, by choosing distance over depletion, by allowing absence to do the teaching. And once emotional awareness arrives, it can't be undone. Even if nothing is said, even if nothing changes outwardly, internally, the realization remains. Silence leaves a mark that words never could. Peace has a quiet pull that chasing explanations will never have. When you stop asking why, stop replaying conversations, stop needing answers from someone who is unsure about you, you reclaim your energy. Chasing explanations keeps you emotionally stuck in a loop, constantly revisiting the same confusion, hoping this time the clarity will finally bring relief. Clarity that has to be begged